I'm back, I'm Gertie Rude, back again, and I'm in a brilliant mood. Well, happy Friday, one and all, Vootoothers. We've made it through another week. Yes, we have. It's amazing, isn't it, eh? Any rate, troops, I thought today we'd have a look at this creature. He's back again, isn't he? It's the Wedgemeister. Back again on the Sean Atwood show, talking a load of old bleeding trot, speculating and shaping the narrative and pushing it wherever the powers that be want it to go, as long as it's not in the right place. So they use this absolute melt who's got the intellect of the average boiled bleeding potato. But anyway, shall we have a look? Today he's back talking smack about something he absolutely doesn't know anything about whatsoever. He's just over there in the realms of speculation, which is just where they like the public at large to be, isn't it? And he's here with this chap, Ron Swanson, who I don't know if any of you are familiar with him. I've only heard of him via Sean Atwood, but I'm quite aware of other sort of rumours or conspiracies or whatever to do with him. Okay, so I'll just put that out there. To be fair, at the moment, I'm just taking him at face value because he does keep old Wedger on a short leash in this interview, which is where he needs to blooming well be, Vootoothers. So anyway, here he is, the Wedgemeister, speculating in his position as de facto retired Metropolitan Police or something or other, or whatever he's decided this week he is. And he's on about the infamous Jill Dando murder, which happened in 1999. I think it was the summer of 99. I remember it. I remember it well, Vootoothers. So here we go. We're jumping. I've slowed him down because you just got to, haven't you? Here we go. Come on, Johnny. Johnny, Wedgie.
Sexually offending against
Right.
young boys or something like that.
Right.
He was accused of it. I think the police searched his house and all sorts, and he later on went on to sue them.
Right.
So there was all question marks around that time about him.
Yes.
So, maybe
he's talking about Barry George, who was the patsy they picked up for the supposed murder execution style of Jill Dando.
There was an election out. I don't know.
Come on.
But something that really later on, now in the police,
right?
If you're not involved in a case,
here we go.
Right? They have a thing called discovery.
He just looks bleeding gormless, doesn't he? I don't think he can help it. He shouldn't really, it's not his fault. I mean, I'm not exactly what you call hot, am I? But he's decisively, well, looks like he might need a carer, Vootooth.
Sterile corridor where
you
won't know what's going on. They're very good at their covert work.
They're very good at their covert work, are they, John? You're giving them the pronouns them and their, rather than, weren't you a copper? Couldn't you be talking about it from your point of view? Instead of talking about it as if you've read it in a book and you're talking about an organisation that you have some education because you studied it a bit, but you actually haven't any experience of actually being in. But I'm sure it's just me, John. Come on, Johnny.
Police, on a lower level. It comes across as sort of a little bit dysfunctional.
A little bit dysfunctional, much like you.
But on a real high sort of covert level, they're very, very professional at what they do.
The police are very professional at what they do. They are, according to their ex-retired copper from the Metropolitan Police Force, they, Johnny Wedgehog, Wedgemeister. Come on, they, them.
So,
right?
And they are good. And
they are.
Some of these investigations are highly, highly sensitive.
They're highly sensitive.
Really get to see the full extent of what the police get involved in.
Right.
And some of it is really dangerous, sort of in-depth stuff.
No, Johnny, blow me down, really? The police get involved with some really dangerous stuff? I thought they were like lollipop men or something or other. Moron. Talk about stating the obvious.
They won't tend to
They-
publicise what
They won't. They won't. The police, they, them, there, they don't. See, because Johnny, he said, so it must be true.
they're doing. But you'll have a mate who's got a mate, or you'll know someone on these units,
Right.
and stuff gets linked out.
Now he's trying to convince us he had a friend. Come on, Johnny.
Oh, and of course, there's a lot of Freemasonry in the police as well.
Well, it would be, wouldn't there? It's a stone cutting crew. Yes. So, yeah. A lot of stuff leaks out, you see, mainly by people like Johnny the Wedgemeister the Wedgehog, going on bleeding VooTube and every other social media platform and giving it the lemon about stuff he knows little about, purports to know quite a lot about. So if stuff does leak out, look no further than the Wedgemeister.
Oh, and stuff gets linked out
It
via
does.
them networks and things like that.
Right.
So you would get information drip fed to you via
would.
various sources.
Yeah.
And later on,
Especially when you're the T-boy.
was to work with a guy that was on it.
He was on it. You worked with a guy that was on it.
Quite a senior level. And
it was quite a senior level. He was on it like a car bonnet, I'll have you know, VooTubers.
And he told me, he said that when
yes,
the
come on, John,
999 call went out to the LAS, which is the London Ambulance Service.
Is it, John? We need all the... Come on. We need all of the... Well, you just have to explain everything to us, you see. We need the minutiae. You know, it's the London Ambulance Service, the LAS. Johnny knows all about it. Yes, we would have never worked out that acronym for ourselves, would we? No, no, no. Come on, Johnny.
Yeah. 23 ambulances.
23, no less.
Ambulances were dispatched to the crime scene.
Right.
For Jill Dando's murder, 23 ambulances were dispatched.
Right.
Yeah, that's
what Johnny's claiming. So, you know, Ronnie, it must be true. Ronnie, whatever Johnny says is true, my darling. You just have to bear with.
Mate,
that's not normal, surely.
That's abnormal.
No, it's not.
It's not normal.
The problem you've got then is this.
Johnny? Right, we've got a problem.
Crime scene.
Brace yourselves, YouTube viewers. Brace yourselves. We have a problem. And Johnny is just about to highlight what this problem is that we have. Come on, John.
It has to be sterile.
It's got to be sterile.
For it to be
of
evidential worth.
Right.
Right. And how it gets explained is a crime scene should be like a field of pure white snow. All right.
Yeah.
And in the middle is your victim.
Right.
And you've got that white snow gets your victim. And
what if it hasn't been snowing though, Johnny? Got a problem then, haven't we, Johnny?
You're going to leave what
I get it. It's a bleak metaphor.
Trail.
I need pity. I've got to admit that for once, I actually did blooming well research this. So this means it's the second time, YouTube viewers, that I've had to listen to this maniac. Come on.
Footprints. Okay, so we're talking
we're so dumb.
But, you know,
we need you. Some under par intellect to explain how the world works to us, Johnny John. Yes, we do. Johnny the Wedgemeister, the Wedgehog.
It's a good analogy.
Yeah.
It's a good analogy.
But you have to evidentially.
What else can he say? He can't say much else.
They'll say, well, why is there two sets of footprints? Well,
she's a lovely looking girl, wasn't she, old Jill Dando? Bless her little heart. We'll get to her very soon. Come on, John.
One set is I went to the victim.
Right.
And the next set was me carrying the victim out.
Right.
And that would be
John, you wouldn't have carried the victim out. I think you'll find that was the LAS, London Ambulance Service. Unless you were going to do a fireman's carry, it wouldn't be down to a police person to carry the victim out. So straight away, we've hit upon what might be called a problem.
But we can understand that.
We can.
So the more people go on to a crime scene, the more they contaminate it. So what you think?
No. Hang on a minute. Rewind. So what you're saying is that if there's a crime, a load of people go stamping all over the place, it'll contaminate the crime scene. Well, blow me. I would have never have thought of that, you know. Never. Not in a billion years, Johnny. I'm so glad we've got you on the Food 2 first, aren't you?
Is in the detective program, there's always a uniform copper standing at the crime scene entrance.
Yes.
Because the area gets shut off.
Right.
Under regulation and under common law.
No.
Gets shut off.
I knew he'd get that common law bit in because he likes to sort of, flag up his common law credentials to all the other crazies that go banging on about that rubbish.
No one's allowed in. If you violate that, you're arrested.
You're not!
Right, so...
You get arrested for violating a crime scene. Well, I was just going to go and do a tango. Yes, I was. Next time I see somebody getting arrested for shoplifting something out of your Tesco's, I was just going to do a little jig. I was. I'm glad you've told me, John, because now I know I won't do it.
The officer has to take details of everyone who goes in.
Everyone?
And then details of everyone who comes out.
No! I'm so glad he's here to educate us, Food 2, on this Friday morning. It's really interesting to know the secret machinations of the police force and how they work. Isn't it, Food 2? Bleeding cretin.
Right, now, if you've taken, I don't know the exact road to Dando.
I suppose he does really, he does sort of, well, people with no actual common sense who probably just lived in their mum's garage or something or other might actually find him sort of educational, imparting some sort of knowledge. Because I know the average sort of 10-year-old child would probably know what he's coming out with. But there you go. He is somewhat childlike intellectually. Let's just be polite.
But I've seen pictures of it. It's sort of like a 1930s detached, semi-detached type Georgian property.
It was a late Victorian terraced house in Fulham. John.
Or whatever it is, with Warden property, I can't,
Well, you don't know, but you're just going to speculate.
Correct me on that.
Yes.
And the front gardens aren't huge.
No.
So if you've got, 23 times 2, you've got 46.
I'll just give up the will to live through too.
All spreading all over.
I've come over a little queer. I have.
The police
I can't help myself.
Else. You're
not
going to account for all those footprints on
I'm not feeling myself, nor is Johnny.
Our metaphorical flow.
Metaphorical!
It's going to absolutely decimate and destroy that crime scene.
Well, no! So 23 ambulances were called to the crime scene and it decimated and destroyed the crime scene or something or other because John's an expert and he knows all about it. Yeah, he does. He knows it. Yeah, he does.
Here's an interesting one, John.
He's an intellectual lemon.
If you wanted to cover up, let's just play devil's advocate. Let's
do that, Ronnie. Ronnie and Johnny.
The people who are in charge of dispatching at the highest level ambulances had something to do with her murder, whether it was government, criminal, politics.
I must admit that Ron actually, I don't know if I can bear. How long is it? 50? I'm not going to put you through that. Honestly, I'm not even going to put myself through it. Let's press A it, shall we? Ron is, reading between the lines, actually trying to move this shoot show into the direction of some realms of probability. And, but obviously John, he likes to keep it to the satanic realms. Come on.
Whatever.
It's all to do with satanic
the best way of destroying a crime scene without anybody complaining about it would be to flood it with medical assistance, right?
Yes.
Because no one's going to criticize you for sending too many medics to a murder scene.
Well, who would have the power to send 23 ambulances? I'm just wondering. Yes, you might have a long list of people or organisations that might have the power. I've got one name, but I'm not going to say it because I don't want to have to avoid going out for the rest of my life. Come on.
See, right?
Johnny.
I mean, that's one way. And another thing, and we have seen this throughout travesties of injustice.
Travesties of injustice.
People with educational issues not
Well, if you've got people that are sub-under par intellects, that's probably all they can detect is other people with sub-under par intellects and fit them up. Because not very bright. No, we've lost it now, haven't we, YouTube? I'm not going back. It's too just there. There we go. Come on.
Stitched up. I mean,
keep my hands to myself.
Evans,
right.
Was for the murders of what was termed as the Rillington Place.
Oh my God, we're going back to the Christie murders of Rillington Place, aren't we? Didn't he lime on his victims and bury them under the house or something or other that no one gives a stuff about? Probably read it in a book, moron. Let's have a walk down memory lane to the 1920s.
Christie mass murder.
Yes.
And Timothy Evans, who was not all fully there mentally.
Right.
Again, he
wasn't. Know all about that, wouldn't he?
Thanks for watching our podcast.
No, this is too much. You've got these two, haven't you? They're flogging their wares. Poor old Jen. She's an expectant mother. Poor thing. Especially in this heat. Poor thing, hey, bless her. Not before time, I'd say, Vootuvers. Good on you, Jen. Knock yourself out, love.
That I mentioned earlier, like the Yardies, right?
Oh, Yardies.
The Yardies. The Jamaican men of violence.
Jamaican men of violence, because John says, so it must be true.
And
yes.
They came over here. The crack war.
Commonwealth country. How dare they come over here, John?
It started off in New York.
It started in New York.
They moved over here, and
the sky is blue.
Basically organised crime, and it was being funded by the street selling of crack cocaine, and it was
nothing to do with. Wasn't nothing to do with the Mina, Arkansas, and that sort of thing back in the 90s and the Clinton. Yes, something or other. No, nothing to do with them. CIA. No, it was the Yardies. What were coming from your Jamaica?
Or violence. Now, what they didn't realise is
I can't bear this.
Take this audit trail further
I'm gonna have to. I can't. I just can't.
Jamaica was.
Shut up, moron.
Of childhood trauma and the AKA child abuse.
Of course.
So, see what happened.
Johnny Wedgie, Wedgie. Here comes Johnny Wedgie.
With Jimmy Savile and co.
I knew he'd bring that up. How did I know? I must be psychic.
Anyone that holds information regarding that little mob.
Yes.
They're aggressively violent.
Yes.
Maybe that she did have information, but
I just can't.
They had a phone line, and they expected 5 or 6 people to ring up. They were inundated with thousands and thousands of calls.
No.
The actual phone lines melted because too many people were calling up.
Right, I can't bear this anymore. Right, yes, John. He will just continue talking absolute bleeding twaddle. The whole situation occurred here, and it's all up in the air. No, I mean, the guy, Barry George or Bolsaro, or whatever his name was ultimately exonerated and awarded damages because, as I've already said, he was a patsy picked up as somebody had to be picked up, and it was him, and he's backward. Mentally and educationally subnormal. And anyway, he got out years later and, as I say, got awarded damages. And subsequently, no one was really looked at. No one was, brought forward as a suspect even. It was thrown around about it being to do because we had the Balkan Wars on at the time, Serbia and invaded Croatia, one thing and another. It was also mooted that maybe it was to do with the child abuse. A certain Christian rock and roll singer that later again was fitted up by the BBC. Well, that was just a psyop anyway. It was just bullshit. Because he was born in India, and I know his parents are English, but he actually gave up his British citizenship, and he's now got citizenship of, I think it's Barbados, but it's one of the Caribbean countries, and it's one that happily for him, doesn't have an extradition treaty with Britain. So, I mean, you can make what you want of that. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. And the guy has other interests in Europe as well, which I'm not going to talk about. I mean, he's really old now. I mean, I don't know. I've seen the pictures. I make my own mind up. But there we are. So he was a bit of a patsy. So he's brought him up, then he's brought Seville up, and he's brought Satanic, this, that, and the bleeding other up, right? An investigation was actually started by, I think it was Havers, I think was his name, barrister, one of the lawyers or whatever, somebody like that did an investigation. And there is a certain lord in Britain who I'm not going to name. I make him 83 now, but at the time he was like in his 50s, okay? And he was very, very high up in the echelons of the Tory. Well, he was a Tory grandee by then. He'd been a member of Parliament. He's actually a rather tacky fella, actually. And when you look into his background and as an entirety, it just seems like apples didn't fall far from the tree when it came to him. So what I'm about to sort of posit you isn't me saying it. It's what somebody else actually investigated for themselves and wrote about. It's in the public domain. Obviously, it's been a bit hush-hush, though. Next door but one to Jill Dando lived a lady called Angela Peppier, who was the personal assistant to this Tory grandee lord, who was up in court for insider trading and also for libel, where he'd taken the Daily Star, because I remember this, took the Daily Star to court in 1986 or 87, because he'd been seen with a professional girl and he'd given her a package of money in one of his Euston Station or whatever, paid her off. Just before the trial, because obviously he was going to take, because he paid her off and he said it was philanthropic, it wasn't for services, he was helping her out, in other words. But she was a lady of the night. And the whole thing was a show trial, and he hauled his wife out, who actually had been separated with for years. They'd been living separate lives. Interestingly, she was an expert at that time on solar power. I'll leave that there, put it to one side. But yeah, so the judge at the trial actually said she was a very fragrant woman, and why would Archer want to sleep with a lady of the night when he's got a wife like that at home? Blah, 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 right? The whole thing. So he won damages against the Daily Star, and he had to pay. They had to pay him £500,000. Now Monica, the lady of the night, Cochran, very sadly, just before, I think it might have been the night before the court case, was killed. Yes, road traffic accident, hit and run. Yes, it's just coincidence. These shit happens, doesn't it? Do you get me, capiche? So there was that. And then later on, when he was accused of this insider trading, he bought, it's Anglia Television, I think, television company. And his wife was on the board of it or something or other. And he knew that they were going to sell. So he bought up a load of shares with another guy insider trading, basically, because he knew. So he bought up these shares really cheap, made a load of money because they were going to sell something or other. I don't know. I don't care. So he had this personal assistant called Angela Peppier, who kept a diary, obviously, because she was the personal assistant to this Tory lord. He used to like champagne and shepherd's pie parties in his penthouse, which overlooked the Houses of Parliament, I'm given to believe, and all the government of high names like Thatcher, everybody, all the top people would go there to these parties. So he was pretty high up, and he was a powerful mover. Very often the people with power are the people you least suspect, and the people that seem like they have power have none. And so then a lady came forward, Andrina Colquhoun, who actually said that in the time of the original libel trial, she was having an affair with him, which made the judges sum it up complete nonsense. And Monica Cochran was probably telling the truth in her witness statement, although she wasn't there to be wasn't able to be in court because she'd been killed in a road traffic accident here. Right? You get me, capiche? Now, the only thing that would put him in jail, which did subsequently happen, was his ex-personal assistant, Angela Peppier. Because she kept a diary, she kept the diary of him, what he was doing, his meetings, where he was going. That was her job. And she had this diary, and she'd been subpoenaed to appear in court to give evidence for the Daily Star, because they wanted their bleeding money back, which they did get. And they also got 1.3 million in interest on the original 500,000. So, I'm sure it's just a coincidence that this Angela Peppier, who lived next door but one, Jill Dando, was the same height, similar age, similar style hair and similar colour. That's just a coincidence. And if you actually look into this lord, who, as I say, does rather enjoy bows and arrows, he's got such a checkered past, capiche? But the good thing about him, not everybody's wholly evil, He has written 42 books and sold 275 million of them worldwide. He's a world-famous novelist. Because of Angela Peppier's, did appear in court, because Jill Dando just coincidentally got murdered next door but one, Yeah. So she got her day in court. And due to her evidence, Andrina Colquhoun, the mistress, they could have wangled their way out of that. What they couldn't wangle their way out of was the itemised, detailed diary that was kept by Works Diary. When you put meetings in and times and where they're going and what they're doing, couldn't really wangle his way out of that, which was in the Angela Peppier's Works Diary, which she had to take to court and show. So subsequently, he got put in jail. And even that he couldn't do because obviously he's a raging narcissist, more than likely. I don't know, I've never met him. He was put in an A category at Belmarsh originally, and then obviously a bit of a hoo-ha because he's a Tory grandee. He was put on a lower category. I think it was category C or even D, and he was allowed out on home visits, where he was, home visits to see his wife and also to help out at a theatre company as a works day release. And then he was seen having dinner with the then Education Secretary, Gillian Shepherd, in 2002, when he just breaking the rules. But there you go, that's Narcs for you. The rules apply to the little people, not to them. So that is one theory. I'm not saying it's true because I do not know, but a lot more likely than what this bleeding moron comes out with. So at any rate, I'll leave it there. I've rambled on enough. I mean, if you want to look into it, do look into it. Just look for a Tory grandee who's got a name that reminds you of bows and arrows. And, well, you can look into it yourself. But it is an interesting theory. And as I say, I'm sure, I don't want to talk out of turn, but I'm sure it was a Barrister Havers that actually did this, investigation himself. And whether he wrote an essay on it or a book on it, I don't know. But the possibilities are endless, aren't they, in this particular case? And I don't think Jill Dando was killed for anything to do with Cliff Richard, Serbia, or Jimmy Savile and child rituals, satanic nut-nuts running around the woods, as John would have you believe. It was much more a highly, highly toxic political thing going on, and I would say also a case of mistaken identity. That's, if you follow that, if you actually follow that line, because it was execution style. The person was approached, Jill Dando was approached, and one bullet behind the ear at the back of the head, and that was it. It was all over. Which sort of professional kill, isn't it? Yes. So if you never hear from me again, Voodoo Voice, it's been great knowing you. Bye bye now.